Hey there, you're listening to Not Another TV Podcast. This is episode 40, the week of April 12th, 2024. My name is Drew Koenig. With me, as always, my co-host, Matt Sassy. Matt, how we doing?
I'm good. I'm really good. It's been a great few weeks. What a time to be alive in the world of television. Is all I will say. Wow.
I, meanwhile, am still requiring 3 to 5 more business days to recover from this week's episode of X-Men 97, but we'll get there.
Yeah, I heard it was rough, but good.
Like I said, we'll talk about it.
We'll get there.
Early contender for best episode of the year.
Nice. That's always good.
Yeah. But we're chugging along into the year. Finally starting to feel good about this. Like we're coming. I feel like with both of us, we're like coming over the curve. You know?
Yeah, like that first quarter of the year said F you to us, and now it's just like, oh, we're smooth sailing for a bit.
Right, well, like, it was so funny, because, like, we got to the end of last year, and we're like, alright, we're past all the strikes, and all the weirdness, and all the, we can just, like, we're good, and then the first 3 months of the year happened, and we're just like, what?
The first 3 months of the year were the roughest on my mental health, and I'm surprised I'm here. Like, it's just like, I am resilient. I have survived. I am a phoenix. I rose from the ashes.
Yeah. And meanwhile, where I've been working, like, 60 to 70 hours a week for the last several weeks, and I get like these little moments of like, oh, this is what my life could be like if I wasn't doing this. If I wasn't like, oh, go, not doing this podcast, but like just doing the work. And you're just like, oh, I could feel such peace. When will my body know peace again?
Yeah, well, we'll see.
The funny thing is that when we go to ATX at the end of May, will be the moment where like my life can go back to normal.
Yeah.
Like there somehow this year worked out that way where it's like like going to ATX marks like the end of like my troubles, really. And when we come back, it's like, oh, I can relax. Did you watch the eclipse?
I sort of saw it. I was working, and it was cloudy where I live. So I sort of got to see a bit of it. You know, it got darker, and I was like, oh, that's what's happening. I wasn't able to get any like really good pictures, but I did have friends that traveled to northern New York to be in the path of totality, and they got some really cool pictures, so I got to see those, and that was really neat.
Nice.
What about you?
I did not watch it. We could like where we were, we could have seen it, but like the totality was just like the path of totality was like a little west of us. So like it was gonna go up through Columbus, I think. So it was just like a little off.
Yeah.
But I understand we still I understand we still got a really good view of it. But I was also...
Yeah, I was going to say, I live in New Jersey, and we were, where I live in New Jersey, we were at 87% totality. So...
Right.
You know, it was still good enough.
Yeah.
We saw a little, we got to see little, like, crescents of the sun around the moon, moon. It was kind of cool.
Right.
But, yeah.
I also just wasn't super interested. could not find it within myself to really care.
Mm-hmm.
I, I was listening to a podcast earlier today that was talking about like they're kind of confusion at like, yes, this is like a great, astrological astronomical event that
Mm-hmm.
I just cannot find it within myself to care. And why don't I care? And I kind of felt that it's like, yeah, this is a cool it's like a theoretically a cool thing, but it's just
Yeah.
like I just don't care. I think that part of it is that I work retail, and so many people have been talking about it. So many people have been like coming in and wanting to buy the like eclipse glasses, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm kind of burnt out on it, but also, yeah, there is something like almost ephemeral about like I don't care about this, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just burnt out, just in general.
Maybe.
Who knows?
I mean, I was intrigued by it, but again, I didn't care enough to make sure that I had glasses so that I could go stand outside, nor did I pay attention to what time it would be happening in the day. So I just happened to look up from my computer and look out the window, and I'm like, oh, it's darker out. Maybe I should go see what's going on. And
Right.
I like stood under our carport, which has like a coverage on it, and like just kind of glanced at the sky. I wasn't like, if I'd really been into it, I would have gone on the trip with my friends, driven
Right.
to northern New York, and I've been like, cool. But I was just like, whatever. Science, yay.
Yeah, yeah. Like there's an observatory nearby near my neighborhood that like I could have got to, and it would have been fun. There were a lot of people there, but like
Hmm.
I'm just like I don't care. Like I went to the uh, one of the grocery stores near my house or near my apartment, like kind of while it was happening that day, and like all the employees were just outside looking up at the sky, and like I had like a moment of like annoyance of like, don't you all have a job?
Yep.
Don't you all have things to do? I was like, that's not the reaction I should be having to this.
Hmm.
I should be excited about this, and I will forever not know why I'm not excited, and it will bother me. Maybe when the next one comes in like 20 years.
20 more years, I think it
Yeah,
is.
there's supposed to be another one in like 2040 something, and then 2070 something. I think I heard. So maybe I'll be more excited then.
Well, see, 2070 something, you'll probably be old as dirt, and you'll be like sitting in your rocket chair and be like, why is the sky dark?
That's true. That's true. It's what it is unreasonable for me to assume that I will be less grumpy and cantankerous when I'm old.
I think maybe, the next one in the 2040s, maybe you'll be like,
Maybe.
this could be cool.
This could be cool.
It's a 3 minutes out of your day. Come on, like, is
Sure.
it really that difficult?
Right.
Just take 3 minutes, Drew. Not that I have any leg to stand on as someone who also didn't care enough to like really go all out to stop working and go stare at the sky.
Anyway, let's jump into some news real quick. So the first piece of news that I have here is that it was announced just today that Star Trek: Strange New Worlds was renewed for a fourth season, but
Yes.
also that Lower Decks will be ending with its upcoming fifth season, which is just a real 1-2 punch. It's a real shot and chaser.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah, they're like, look, these two shows that we know you love have been renewed, but one of them, it is the last renewal they will ever get.
right? Yes, yes.
There is an ending in sight for this one. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, I get that.
yeah. So it was very bittersweet.
Hmm.
Even though, I mean, I almost hate to say this, but like Lower Decks, it's a better show. So I'm like, could we maybe let that one? No, okay.
I really like Strange New Worlds. I can't really make a decision about Lower Decks. I've only seen the one season that we watched for the podcast.
Right.
I did enjoy that season, but I feel like I'm a little more invested in Strange New Worlds because I have seen all of it.
Right. Yeah.
But in the off season, I will definitely be watching all of Discovery, all of Lower Decks to kind of try and get caught up. I've kind of been slacking on the Star Trek front.
Whenever Lower Decks comes back, hopefully this year, that'll be the final season of that show.
Yep.
It's also bittersweet in a different way because this is also the last season of Star Trek Discovery.
Yep.
So we got a lot of Star Trek going out the door and not as much coming back in.
Yeah, because we lost Picard last year,
Yeah,
so
we lost Picard. Now we're losing Lower Decks and Discovery. There's supposed to be a Starfleet Academy show on the way, as along with more Strange New Worlds, along with a Section 31 TV movie, and hopefully, Star Trek Legacy if it ever actually gets greenlit.
Mm-hmm.
Which I know I would personally greatly enjoy. Also, Evil announced its release date for next
They
month,
did
which
indeed.
is very exciting.
Which is another final season that I'm kind of like, I get it. It's not a show that could go on forever, but it's still kind of sad.
Yeah, yep. I'm gonna miss that weird show.
It is so weird, but I love it.
And in slightly TV related news, O.J. Simpson died this week.
Yeah.
Who is the focus of both the 30 for 30 documentary O.J. Made in America and the was American Crime Story, I believe it was the first season of that, with the O.J. Simpson trial starring Cuba Gooding Jr. And David Schwimmer. Which really reminded everyone how interconnected the Kardashians and O.J. Simpson was. In case you did not remember that. Which was a entertaining series at points. O.J. Simpson, who almost certainly killed his wife.
Here's the other thing. Here's the thing. So my roommate texted me, and this is slightly morbid, but like every year we kind of make a list of people that we potentially think could end up passing away that year. Like it's not serious at all. Like we're just like, here are these really old people that we think are probably going to die. Like, you know what I mean? Like we're just like, all right, whatever. And she's like, was OJ Simpson on your bingo card for this year? And I was just like, no. Why? And she's like, he died. So I went on Twitter, because usually you can type the name in on Twitter and it'll immediately pull up the news story about it. But because OJ Simpson is such a controversial person, I saw hundreds upon hundreds of jokes and memes about it, and then I finally hit the first news story. Like there were so many other tweets about it versus the actual news story. I don't know if this is considered news, but it is a big milestone, especially in today's TV climate. Two TV shows that I really deeply care about between last week and this week reached 100 episodes, and that's huge. Like, it doesn't happen very often anymore. Obviously, we'll talk about a little bit more later on, but 911 reached 100 episodes. But also this week, The Connors reached 100 episodes, which I did not realize prior to like the day of the episode airing that it was 100 episodes. Um, because it wasn't something that was really advertised by ABC and like promoted by ABC, which was weird. Because The Connors is one of their top sitcoms, so like I figured they would have, but I knew about it because Sarah Gilbert posted a reel to her Instagram and it said 100 episodes. I'm like, oh, we've reached that milestone. That's fantastic. So yeah, I think it's just something worth mentioning, just because like I said, it's hard for shows to reach that in this day and age because the seasons are much shorter, and B, shows don't get to have longevity anymore, and so it's a big deal to reach 100 episodes.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny you mentioned that. That reminded me that NCIS Mothership reached 1,000 episodes this week.
Jesus, I didn't realize it was that many.
Yeah.
But I guess if it's been 20 years, that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, it has been 20 years. Dude, that would be 20.
Well, and this season is 25 years of SVU, so like it's just wild to me the types of shows that have longevity and the types of shows that don't get renewed, like for more than just a couple seasons. And some people on Twitter were talking about that today. Actually, they were like, because SWAT got canceled and then and then got uncanceled by CBS. And so they got renewed. And so someone was like, oh, good, look at that. Another cop show that is just like every other cop show getting renewed. But this really unique and very diverse show that I love got one season and then they canned it. And I'm like, yep, that's how it goes.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
Yep. Where basically every CBS show has been renewed except for NCIS Hawaii. But yeah, some shows just will not die. And speaking of shows that won't die, Heroes is coming back for a third time.
What?
Heroes. Yes. Yeah. You all remember Heroes Reborn? I do. It sucked.
I do. It sucked.
It was bad. It was really, really bad.
Didn't it have? I feel like it had Zachary Levi, or am I wrong?
I don't think Zachary Levi.
Who was with it? Who was on it? Zachary Levi was on it.
Was
yep.
he? Was he?
Yep. I remember. That's why I remember it existing because my roommate at the time was obsessed with Zachary Levi, and so she was like, oh my god, I have to watch this. I go, did you watch the original series? And she said no, and I was like, then just no, go away. You know who else was in the cast? I'm looking at the cast. Ryan Guzman, who is now on 911.
Yep.
That is just wild to me. Anyways, terrible show. Terrible.
I was thinking of Zachary Quinto.
Zachary Quinto. Yeah, Zachary Quinto. Listen, Zachary Quinto was my favorite part of the original Heroes.
My favorite thing about Heroes Reborn was that it went, hey, do you remember Hayden Panettiere's character? Yeah, she died on the way back to her home planet, basically. So don't worry about that.
Oh, okay. That's literally like how I like reacted to it when they said. I was like, oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. You remember that really pivotal character for like 4 seasons? Yeah, she died in childbirth.
Don't think too much about it.
Don't think too hard about that.
It's fine.
But yeah, Heroes is coming back again. Like, I rewatched Heroes before Reborn came out, and the thing I think people forgot about Heroes is that the first season was only good in terms of 2005, but it's not actually very good, and the rest of it was so much worse. So the idea that we're like, oh, we can do this again. You're like, no, you can't. No, please don't. I can't. You're going to make me go full La Brea here. I won't do it.
Tell us how you really feel, Drew.
Don't test me. Don't test me. I'll do it. I am not afraid to become a menace. But yeah, like, I can't. I just... Like, Heroes was a fun product of its time.
Right.
But it has no place.
You know, it's funny you say that. So, like, I was talking with a friend the other day about, we were talking about characters that we love from television, you know, blah, blah, whatever. And I was talking about Teen Wolf, as I'm wont to do on occasion. And I said, but you know what? If I were to watch Teen Wolf for the first time tomorrow, like in my current age, you know, where I'm at in life, I would not be able to get into it. I just know that I would not get into it. But like when I watched it originally, I was in my early 20s and that was the demographic for that damn show. And I was in a lonely place and I needed a show that made me feel like I wasn't alone, and there it was. I was like, it's so funny that shows can do that. Like you can look at a show that you absolutely love and know that if you had watched it in your current life place, you'd be like, I would not be into this show. You'd be like, I love it now because I watched it when I was younger and got very attached to it, and I'm still very attached to that feeling. But if I were to watch the content now, I'd be like, no. No.
Yeah, no. Heroes was a great show to watch when I was 15 with my dad. Like,
yep. Exactly.
That is a show that was designed to be watched that way.
Yeah, it was definitely designed to be watched as, you know, like a weekly evening show in high school with your parents.
Yeah.
Something you can talk about. You know, that's exactly what it's there for. Don't bring. I can't believe.
I can't do this. Tim Crane, you can't keep doing this to us.
You just ruined my day, Drew. God. Listen, I'll find a way to ruin yours. It's fine.
Okay.
I'll have them come and broadcast La Brea directly.
You know what? Fuck you. You know what?
It's just too easy. I mention the word La Brea and you just freak out.
There are a few things in this world that will make me viscerally curse someone, but evoking La Brea is it. So let's move on to the GOAT. So the GOAT is a weekly segment we do here on the podcast where myself and Mads nominate a best TV character or episode of all time and pit them against each other on Twitter or TikTok. So we're settling it from a couple weeks ago because we're kind of a little bit behind in our release schedule here. So 2 weeks ago, I nominated Battlestar Galactica Season 1, Episode 1, entitled 33. And Mads, you nominated Bobby Nash from 911.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yep. Which resulted in a tie, but we settled it off air. And you won that round. Since I lost that one, I will be going first with my submission for the GOAT. So the last week or so on Twitter, there has been a lot of talk about Lost. And I haven't made a Lost pick in quite a while. It's been, I think, over a year since I made any kind of Lost submission. So this will be my last one for a while. Because I feel like I've banged that drum quite a bit. I've gone to the well for Lost a lot. So this will be my moratorium on it for a little bit, an indeterminate amount of time. And I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna settle this once and for all. I'm doing this. So my pick for the GOAT this week is Lost Season 6, Episodes 17 and 18, even though there was one big episode, The End, which is the controversial series finale of Lost that people don't understand. some people don't like the series finale of Lost because of that misunderstanding.
I am not one of those people.
Good. I think that if someone made this point online, but like if Lost ended today, if the same series finale happened today, it would be lauded as one of the best series finales of all time.
Yep.
And I stand firmly in that corner. It is such a remarkable 2 hours of television. Season 6 in itself is extremely rocky, weirdly paced, but the way that it ends, goes out with a bang, is so phenomenally true to the series as a whole, the heart, the emotion, with, fun moments of action and quippy dialogue. And I just really do love it so much. The Sideways universe just, in its full completion, works so well. And the ending with the church, everyone in the church, and the goodbyes, it's so good. Don't ask me to explain Jack's son. I don't know, nor do I truly care at this point.
Also, Hugo being the keeper of the island, like,
so good. I love that finale. It works in every way it was meant to work. Which is the best thing that I can say about the end. So that's my pick for this week. Lost season 6, episodes 17 and 18. The end.
Great pick. It's funny because I actually am picking an older show as well. And I feel like it's a show that I've also kind of beat the drum on a bit. So this will be my last time probably talking about this show for a while as well. But last weekend I was watching this film as part of my Robin Williams film challenge that I decided to do this year. That had Anton Yelchin in it, and it just reminded me of what a talent that young man was. And it made me go back and think about, there was an episode of ER that he was on that was so pivotal to the story, and I remember his performance in it because he was this young kid who had to kind of be a parent for his younger sister because their parents get killed in a car accident and they're the survivors. It's a very intense episode. It is my pick this week then is ER season 6 episode 13, Be Still My Heart. And it's very it's a life-changing episode because of the performances, but also because of what actually happens at the end of the episode that kind of like carries over to the next episode. And it's one of those very big talked about TV moments. But the episode overall like just had a lot of great guest appearances, from the very, very young Anton Yelchin, all the way to David Krumholtz playing a character with a psychotic break. And he does a phenomenal job. And the ending is just very shocking. And we don't know like what the aftermath is going to be of that shocking ending. And I'm talking about the stabbing of Dr. Carter and Lucy. And, as we know, Lucy ends up dying in the next episode. But this episode itself is like where we first see her lying on the floor, covered in blood. It's a big emotional episode because of the medical stuff going on throughout the whole episode. And then we get to the end, and it's just one of those moments that ER is well known for. Creating an ending that makes us want to tune in the next week. But yeah, so my pick this week is ER season 6, episode 13, Be Still My Heart.
Nice. So you can go vote for both of these on Twitter, and you'll have 2 days to vote once the poll goes live. And be sure to like and share on whatever social platform you're using these days. And don't forget to send in your own goats picks to podcast@gmail.com. Without anything else, let's move on into the main part of our show.
Yeah, let's be real. You're gonna win this vote this week.
So our first show for this week, we're continuing our Adventure Time rewatch, concluding season 7 with episode 26, The Thin Yellow Line, and getting into season 8 with episode 1, Broke the Crown, and episode 5, I Am a Sword.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with the Thin Yellow Line.
I'm gonna be dead honest. It took me a little bit to understand that, like, this is Adventure Time's version of Thin Blue Line, and I was just like, oh, now, like, when it hit me, I was like, oh, now I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, I also watched it at like 2 a.m., so maybe that's why.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know, but I always love the banana guards are some of the most ridiculous characters.
They're just so stupid.
They're so dumb. PB is like, you guys can go in disguise. You could do it during the changing the guard. It's fine. And I'm just like, they look nothing like these banana guards, and like they just walk right on past them and they don't notice.
The best part about that is that Jake is fully a different color than all the other banana guards.
And Finn has his little, like, you know, ear thingies at the top. I'm like, you're not even the right shapes, guys. Come on. And I'm like, you banana guards, are you really that stupid? Yes, you are.
They're really dumb. They're
They're
really,
so dumb. But it makes for a fun, like, season ending episode.
Yeah. Part of my thing with this episode is that, like, I'm not sure it tracks that while the banana guards are really truly stupid beings, it doesn't fully track how lucid they are about Princess Bubblegum in this episode. To be so secretive, because again, they are real dumb, but seem very cognizant of things that they should not be cognizant of, like things that PB has done throughout the years in terms of, like, Nettie and the Rattle Ball.
It was very, like, confusing and convoluted, because I was like, you're trying to tell us two different things about these characters that don't mesh together.
Yeah.
Like, we've always, and I was like, it'd be one thing if you're trying to say that the stupidity has always been a front. It's always been a ploy to, like, make us be off our guard around them, so to speak. But it's not. The writers are literally saying these guys are stupid, but oh look, they're actually smart about PB, and it's like, that doesn't track.
It is almost like, yes, it's almost like two things are true. Like, yes, they're so stupid, but also they have been paying attention throughout the years. And it does kind of bring up the question of, like, how long do these candy beings live for? Like, have they just all been around to see the things that Bubblegum has done throughout the years? Like, are they almost as old as Princess Bubblegum? And I'm not sure that's a question the show is interested or willing to answer. But, like, there's even some of that in there that, like, we didn't know. Like this is the first time that, like, Uncle Gumball has really been brought up. beyond just like this is just the cabin from earlier in the season being her uncle Gumball's cabin, or like
Right.
her uncle's outdoor mirror, but getting like some sense of like part of that went wrong. So I did like that of like seeding that in a little bit because it really does come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But I do kind of like this as the end of the season, where like a season where Princess Bubblegum has had to lose her power and then regain her power and then kind of come to terms with what that means. And so
Yeah.
I do like this as like Bubblegum having to like face like what she has been.
Exactly. She's also had to like rediscover herself. Like she has to like determine, who am I? What are my goals? Like how can I move forward?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a great way to bookend that concept this whole season.
Yeah, because like on one hand, this is like a weird way to end any season, you know. But also it's so thematically fulfilling. Like it's very thematically
Yeah.
satisfying for like where PB is. But also there's a lot of fun moments of in particular the moment of Jake running down the hallway, screaming, "There's a conspiracy afoot! How deep does the rabbit hole go?" And then you just see that echoing past Finn in the office.
It's just so funny.
Makes me laugh every time. And the moment where they have to do jumping jacks, and Jake just like kind of sort of raises his head up a little bit.
We love a lazy Jake moment.
It's so good. But the effigy they have of Princess Bubblegum that they roll out is
Oh my god.
truly unsettling.
Yo, when they unveiled that, I was just like, uh, uh, is that made out of bubble gum? Because it looks like it's made out of bubble gum, and that, first, on one hand, that's kind of genius, but on the other hand, why is that your effigy?
That is
What?
disturbing.
What is going on here?
No.
Where it is equally cool and fascinating and
And
disturbing.
disturbing. Yeah. No, thank you.
You mean you don't want them to make an effigy of you
No,
like that?
absolutely not. Nothing in this world can interest me less. Let's move forward to Broke His Crown,
Yeah.
which is has a lot of really great bubblegum and Marceline moments.
And we get to see Simon.
We can
I
see
like seeing
Simon.
Simon.
Yeah, this is so coded as I'm bringing my girlfriend to meet my dad.
Yes. It's very much like that. Like from the first moments of it, I was just like, "Oh, it's Marceline and Bubblegum. Oh, and they're wearing casual clothing and like they're being very chill and lovey towards each other." I'm like, "Oh, this is going to be a good episode."
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure I would call it casual clothing though. Bubblegum's wearing a very nice dress.
I mean, casual in the sense that it's not their typical clothing, I
Right.
guess I should
Yeah.
say. Like they're non-typical clothing.
They're dressed up.
They dressed up. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh,
I used the wrong word. It's fine. I know how to talk.
no,
I
no,
know
no.
what I'm
That's good.
talking
That's
about.
good. Them together is so good. Like it's just every time
I
it comes up, it's just so very nice.
I feel like as much, so here's the thing. Going into Adventure Time, the only thing I really knew about it was Marceline and Bubblegum. And so like for as much as the internet talks about them, I was like expecting more episodes centered around them, and they're not as frequent as I feel like it should be. So like it was nice to get this episode because we haven't had a Marceline and Bubblegum episode in a little while. And so it's nice to be like, oh, here, we're checking in on the lovebirds.
Basically.
How's that love affair going?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's
Oh, you're going to see Simon. You're going to see your dad. Oh, that's cute. And you're bringing your girlfriend.
yeah, yeah. Well, and
oh no, he's going crazy. Well, what else is new?
well, and it's so funny because all of this is still subtext. You know, all of it is still
Yeah,
just like unspoken things. Where like canonically, we're supposed to believe that they're still like in a situationship. I don't know any
listen.
situationship to bring someone to meet their parents. Uh,
Here's the thing, and I kind of get into this with people that watch other shows that I watch. More specifically, recently, it's been with 911. I've run into this. We queer people can sniff out our own,
right.
whether they are explicitly stated. We sniff out our own, which is why when casual viewers watch the show and are like, "Oh, but they're just friends," and you're just like, "That's because you're not queer. You can't sniff it. You can't smell it yet. You need it spelled out for you."
Right, right. Well, like it's like how I keep seeing tweets about Legend of Korra ever since the live action Avatar came out, and people
Hmm.
talking about like uh, Korra and Asami came out of nowhere, and it's like that's because you're not looking for it. Go watch it again.
Hmm.
Tell me it came out of nowhere. You haven't
Yep.
trained. You haven't trained yourself to be looking for this. But like the great thing about Bubblegum and Marceline is that like we don't need to look for crumbs because it is as text as you can get with while still being subtext.
I mean, they. I mean, Bubblegum has Marceline's shirt. Like,
Right.
like there's that. There's all these like moments that they have and share together, and you're just like, how are you not seeing this bright sign that says they're in love?
Right. Well, like there's that moment early in the episode where Bubblegum drips a part of like the juice on her face, and Marceline just like wipes it off with her thumb, and I was like, they might as well have just made out. Like that's the equivalent of like what just
Hmm.
happened. Like
That is okay. Every fanfic on the planet has a using your thumb to wipe your love interest's mouth
bright,
moment.
yes.
Like it's very intimate. It's very charged with sexual intimacy, romantic intimacy, depending on how far you want to take it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like it's right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Right there
Well,
for Bubblegum and Marceline.
it's so
Right there.
funny when that moment where they're inside the crown and Simon asks Marceline if she's dating anyone, and Marceline's like, "No, no, no, I'm not dating. Uh, no, there's no guy." And you can see like the
Yeah, because
begin.
he's like, "Do you have a boyfriend?" And she's like, "No, I don't have a boyfriend." And she's very defensive about
Well,
it.
the thing that makes that is that you can see the beginning of like this big smirk on Bubblegum's face before before the shot pans away.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, this is so good. Uh,
Hmm.
um, but even like all the bubbling stuff aside, I do love this as an episode that really reminds us that Bubblegum at her core is still just a big giant nerd.
Yes.
Like no matter what, like she is a workaholic and a nerd.
That's why we love
Yeah, she
her.
loves her science.
Honestly, I loved getting to see Dinosaur Gunter again.
Oh, Dinosaur Gunther.
He's so I just love him so much. It's just it's so cute.
Yeah,
Ugh.
yeah,
I just want to have one for that I can put in my pocket. I want a Dinosaur Gunther that I can put in my pocket cuz he's adorable.
yeah.
And who voices him?
Pamela Adlon from Better
Yes.
Things.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes. She's been in like everything, and so like that voice too. It's just like it's so ugh.
it's such a good voice. Well, let's move on to the last episode here, which is I Am a Sword. I think I said this before about like some episodes of Adventure Time that I think are good, but I don't rewatch. And this is one of them because like the destruction of the Fin Sword makes me upset, and
I don't know.
I don't like it.
I just I didn't really have any strong feelings about this episode at all. Like, I was like, it was an episode. I don't know. I just didn't really connect to it. And maybe that's on me. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe I'm just weird. It was an episode. Like, that's literally all I have in my brain about this episode. It happened. He lost the sword, and then the sword got destroyed. Oh, that sucks. Like,
yeah. I think part of this is because I can kind of see where all this is leading. I can see like the wider ramifications of the thin sword, which
that's valid.
Is playing into this a little bit. Next week, we're going to be talking about season 8, episode 7, Normal Man, episode 8, Elemental, and episode 10, The Music Hall. Let's continue on to our next show, which is Dimension 20, Escape from the Bloodkeep, episode 3, The Caged Elf and the Crown. So, what did you think of this?
I didn't expect, because I know it's like a, you know, how we have a plot or character building episode, battle, then whatever. Like, and with this being a shorter season, I wasn't expecting a whole lot from this episode. Like, you know, we'd had major battles in the previous one, so I was just like kind of like, okay, we're gonna coast through this. But like, a lot happened.
A lot happens, yeah.
A lot happens, and also I just want to talk about the talking bird, the talking eagle,
John Feathers. Yes,
John Feathers. What a name, man! What a
John
name.
John Feathers is also, such a good name.
A side note, like, I'm like, we're on the third episode, and I'm just now like making ha 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 so funny connections with the altered names of these characters that technically exist in the Lord of the Rings universe. And like, so I was just like, with Stalker, I was like, oh, because Strider, wow, took me a while, took me a minute, like, just I swear I'm okay. I just, it's been a rough few months with my brain, and so I feel like my brain is still like rebooting. It's still rebooting and recovering, and so I'm like, oh, I would not have normally have taken this long to understand some of these references. Also, another thing that made me really laugh was Lilith's children being like deployed to like help I think it was like make shirts or uniforms or something, and like they were like child labor laws, and I'm just like, what? Like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I mean, I get it, but like, that's the most ridiculous thing ever. I'm enjoying myself. I really am.
Yeah, there's so much good stuff in this episode, like the the call with Maggie's dad and Zaunaj.
Oh my god. I had forgotten that Maggie was pregnant. I truly had forgotten. Like,
oh yeah.
And then she's like telling her dad. I'm like, oh right, that was a plot point that was introduced previously. Like, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and then them killing the I forget what Brandon calls them, but the Ringwraith.
Yeah, I don't remember what he calls them either.
I forget, but I love that Matt and Reka just roll so high on their attacks. Like, they just brutalize that man. I'm trying to remember, I think they rolled like 50 damage for both of them. Like, it's incredible for how bad Matt was rolling in the last episode. Oh, speaking of which, I love that Hamhead is still alive and successfully sneaks away.
Yes.
I love that moment where Brennan does the roll for Hamhead, and he just has that moment of like wink at the camera. Wink, we're gonna talk about this later, which is the fun thing about like DMs rolling for like NPCs. They can just do it and not have to tell anyone. It's one of those things where like you might miss it if you're not like really paying attention for it. But it's so funny.
It shows that they're trying to get so much done in a short amount of time because I feel like it's just had so like if for example if this had been a TV episode I would have been like no they crammed too much in there. Like I get it, it's like obviously it's D&D, it's a game, there's roles determine certain things, but like to a point there were certain things that Brendan was like I want to try and get to,
Right.
with this section of the campaign. And so it's like it's so much. Like they get they accomplish a lot.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's also the thing of the season that it has a time limit on it. Not just in the episode counts, but like just narratively.
Yeah.
We have shit that we need to do as quickly as we can. And any dawdle, like Fantasy High had the luxury of dawdling because they could. But Escape from the Bloodkeep is like, no, we have to go. Like, there are like in-universe reasons why we have to do this as quickly as possible.
I mean, if you think about it, like they have to get this done as quickly as possible to accomplish their goal. Like they want to do a certain thing. You can't just be like, oh well, we'll get to it when we get to it. Never mind the fact that there's humans and elves and orcs and all these things encroaching on us. It doesn't matter. We'll just take our time. No, they can't do that. They have to be quick.
Yeah, they have to be quick.
But yeah, like it's not a problem that there's a lot. It's just like you sit down and you like take stock of everything that happens and you're just like, oh man, if this had been a TV episode, I would have been like, that was too much. But since it's D&D, you're just like, that was exciting.
Yeah, and I love them going to find the wet elf, the other wet elf, who's very concerned about his bones. He's very concerned about his bones. Like that's just that's a very amusing running gag throughout the episode of, all right, I have all my bones, or I get to kill you. Yeah, and I love the way that Brendan plays that. Fun airship battle next episode, very entertaining. So let's move on to our next show of the week, which is Star Trek Discovery, which came back for its fifth and final season. And I saw a thing that where Sonequa Martin Green, who plays Michael Burnham on the show, was talking about the season, and she was like, when I was getting my scripts, I was kind of confused with how the season was going, and then they're like, "Oh, it's the final season," and she was like, "Oh, that makes sense."
Yeah.
Okay, got it. I'm really enjoying the season so far. We are 3 episodes in so far. We're basically on a fetch quest, which is the way it seems like this season is going to go, where we are looking for 5 pieces of 5 clues to a tech left by the progenitors, which was a race introduced on the Next Generation.
Okay.
Tech that was used to create every sentient being in the universe. The crew of Discovery racing against a crew, 2 couriers, one of which played by, I forget the actress' name, but she played Maya on the 100, and she looks extremely cool in the season. And I'm really enjoying her character as a kind of antagonist, which with a connection to Booker. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun. This season brings in Callum Keith Rennie, who plays a kind of rival Starfleet captain who gets demoted and becomes Michael's first officer. And I think he has some interesting energy with the rest of the crew. I said this on Serialized. I have watched too many 2000s era shows to ever trust that man in my life.
Yeah.
That man is a villain. He has a face that was made to play a bad guy on TV. You expect me, after watching Harper's Island, to ever trust Callum Keith Rennie? You have to be out of your mind.
There are just certain people that play the villain role often enough that the minute they show up on a new show, you're just like, nope.
No. Mm-hmm. But I think that he has a really interesting dichotomy with Michael throughout these episodes, and also the chemistry between Michael and Booker is just very good and remains like one of the best relationships that we've had with Star Trek in the last few years. So greatly enjoying it. I'm looking forward to seeing where Discovery ends up going with the season. More on that later. Let's move on to The Girls on the Bus, which I have not caught up on, but you have.
I have. And you know what? I'm going to start off by saying that Scott Foley is one of my like top 100 favorite people to watch on TV. Like when he I mean like in the sense that like when he's I'm not going to say like oh like he's the top actor, I love him on whatever, but he's one of those actors that like when he shows up on screen I'm like, "Oh, I like that guy." Like I don't really think of him outside of a role, but then when he's in a role, I'm like, "Oh, I like that guy." And he's on this show and he plays this very sweet, down to earth governor from Kansas, which of all things, I'm just like, okay. I love that TV seems to think that Kansas is like the wholesome, like, imagery that they need if they want this, like, if they want a naive politician or a sweet, kind person. They're like, oh, we'll make them be from Kansas. I don't understand it because Kansas people are kind of assholes, but that's beside the point. And it's funny because at the end of episode 4, there's this moment at the very last moments of the episode where she's watching. I keep wanting to say Cara Danvers, and I'm like, that's incorrect. We know who I'm talking about, though. She's watching the TV, and a news story pops up that says governor from Kansas, I forget the guy's name, has been involved with an unknown woman in a car accident, right? And you think, oh God, this is going to be his undoing. This is when he's going to stop being that sweet, kind politician, and it's going to get, all his skeletons are going to come out of the closet. And I think the great thing that Girls on the Bus does is they throw you for a loop in the next episode, because we get into this next episode, he's doing press, he's answering questions, and then he does an exclusive with Kimberlyn for Liberty News. I have issues with the fact that Kimberlyn works for Liberty News, but that's beside the point. And he does an exclusive with Kimberlyn, and they start to talk about the details of the accident, and it turns out he saved a woman from a burning car. And you're just like, nope, the wholesome Kansan governor ideal is still intact. And like he smiles and you're like, Scott Foley could never be a villain. Like you could never make this man anything less than ethical, good, wholesome, nice. Like he just is the boy next door. And I think that's why it's so great to see him in this, because you keep expecting him to be like every other politician, and obviously he's not going to because he's Scott Foley. It still continues to be a very interesting show. I'm not sure how I feel about the major double standard that is happening with the main female character right now, with her having to like have her job be on the line because she slept with the press secretary for one of the candidates who happens to be a guy, and like that she even brings it up in her like defense hearing at her job. She's like, okay, but if a guy did it with a female on the road, you guys wouldn't have even batted an eye. But since I'm a girl and I did it, oh, there's a potential like liability for my sources and things like that. And I'm just like, I don't know. Is that really a story we want to go with this overall theme of she's following a mysterious source thing? Like, is this what we want to focus our time on? Because I felt like this episode kind of pulled away from that, like this whole show so far has been fun and interesting because we've got them following the campaign trail, but on the side she's getting these mysterious phone calls about a big story that she can break on one of the candidates, right? And it's really interesting. And then we get to this episode and she's pulled completely out of that. and she goes to give that information to one of her fellow journalists, and I'm like, I don't like where this is going. Like, I don't like where this is going. But I guess we'll see. We'll see.
Right.
Anyways, Scott Foley continues to be adorable. That is the essence of this episode.
You want to talk about 911?
I did a little bit. As I mentioned earlier, they hit 100 episodes last Thursday. On that was what, April 4th? Yeah. April 4th, they hit 100 episodes. And I always enjoy tuning in for shows on their big milestone episodes like that, because it tends to be that moment where the writers kind of sit down and they're like, okay, how can we show the fans that we love them and we see them, we hear them, we know that the reason we've hit this milestone is because of them, right? I like being able to watch episodes for that reason. And tuning into 911, we knew that it was going to be silly and ridiculous Buck being jealous behavior. And that's always when the show is at its best, is when they let the characters be silly, typical hormonal people sometimes. And Buck is like the best one to do that with, because he's ADHD dog, golden retriever, puppy dog personality. Like, that's literally him. So him being jealous is hysterical, right? We were not expecting in the last 5 minutes of the episode for Buck to full on accept a kiss from another man and then enjoy it enough to agree to go on a date with that man. It's something that the fans have been kind of headcanning for going on 6 seasons now. Going into the 7th season, we've been kind of clocking him as bisexual since season 1. The signs and clues have been there, and it was so nice to finally get it confirmed, and especially for them to do it in such a monumental episode. Was beautiful. And then ABC not only did that, they also promoted the hell out of it. Like, I mentioned on my TikTok, like 30 minutes after the episode finished, there were at least 10 interviews with Oliver Stark, who plays Buck, like him talking about it. Which is such a stark contrast from Fox, because Fox wouldn't let the actors really talk about the show at all. They would only let Tim Minear do interviews, really. So it was so nice to like see that. But also to see Oliver Stark talk about how he saw what the fans were doing and he pulled away from the fans because he didn't want to disappoint them. Because he's like, I didn't know if they were going to actually make my character bisexual. He goes, but I started playing it as that from season 3 on. And we're just like, here is an actor that cares about us, cares about the character, and sees what we want, and so he's putting little hints into the way he plays this character. And it's the kind of representation we deserve. Not only that, there aren't very many bisexual men on television currently. Like, a lot of times when TV creates bisexual characters, they go with the female archetype, or if it's a male bisexual, they tend to make him very more into men than women. So it's nice to have Buck, who's canonically only had disastrous relationships with women, but also he's a big, beefy fireman type. Like, it's just, I could go on and on, but I'm not going to take up more time. But it's very beautiful. I'm so glad 911 is going this direction. This week we got to see him go on a date and be awkward and strange, and then not have to come out, but like chooses to come out to his best friend and get automatically accepted by his best friend. It was just, it's so beautiful, and I think I have high hopes that 911 is going to continue treating this with dignity and grace.
Nice.
Anyways, that is all I will say on that.
Well, I'm sure more on this at another point.
Listen, if they ever put him with the other character I want him with, you'll never hear the end of it. I'm warning you guys now.
I'm kind of reminded of Supergirl's 100th episode, which was just about Kara's friendship with Lena Luthor and all of the multiversal differences of their friendship. What a normal platonic friend thing to do.
What yeah, exactly. What? That's not gay at all.
Totally not explicitly romantic thing to do whatsoever.
It's not gay at all.
I can't believe that show.
It's really funny because, with the Buck situation on 911, the whole episode he's doing these ridiculous things like ordering a basketball delivered from Amazon directly to the fire station so that he can bounce it in front of Eddie and be like, Eddie, let's play basketball, like try to get Eddie's attention, and Eddie's not interested. He's too busy talking to this new friend of his. And then at the end of the episode, Buck is talking to the new friend, and the new friend is apologizing for getting between Buck and Eddie as friends. And Buck's like, oh, well, it's been exhausting trying to get your attention. And we're just like, sir, you're not trying to get his attention. But okay, we'll go with this for now. You're confused, but it's fine. It's been hilarious. Like, I'm not gonna lie. It's just like, this was a fun episode. It was just like the writers understood the assignment. They're like, this character is beloved by the fans. The fans love it when the episodes are ridiculous and silly because it counteracts with the more serious ones that happen 90% of the time. And we get to see it be a love letter to these characters, So it's just I loved it. I enjoyed it. More on that at 11. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no.
Also, the haters can stay mad. That's all I would say. Like, it's so hilarious. And you know what's really funny is it's bad when the actor who plays the character calls you out on his Instagram story. He literally called people out, being like, oh, to those of you that are saying, well, now this show is suddenly gay, I want to remind you there have been 2 sapphic characters since the beginning of this show who have been married and have children. He's like, also, to those of you saying that you want to stop watching because I'm now bisexual, you don't need to announce that you're leaving. I was just like, I can't. I'm just like, oh man, it's so funny. And I didn't realize I was still in a Facebook group for this show until this happened. Like, it suddenly started showing up on my timeline on Facebook, even though I don't interact in the group. And I'm just like reading these comments, and these people are angry, like full on angry. They're like, this ruins the character. He's always been a womanizer, and you're ruining the show. And I'm just like, okay, bye. Go watch something else then. Bye. This isn't for you.
Now to pivot in a completely other direction. To X-Men 97, episode 5, entitled Remember It. This episode hurt me in ways that I can't properly describe.
Yeah.
I am in awe of it. It's an amazing, it is a spectacular episode. And I am in awe of it. The way that someone on Twitter put it like this, where like every episode of X-Men 97, the first half of the episode is like, aren't things great? And the last half of it is no.
Mm-hmm.
No. It's always like, can't we have like hope? And the last half is like, no. No, you cannot. Because I do love just the plotting of this episode, where Rogue, Magneto, and Gambit go to Genosha, which is going to be officially recognized by the UN as a sovereign mutant state.
Yep.
And there's that foreboding sense of like, oh, something bad is going to happen. And you're you spend the whole episode like waiting for the twist. Where's the twist going to happen? and you see the Hellfire Club with Sebastian Shaw and Emma Frost, who are the antagonists. People will recognize as the antagonists from X-Men First Class, and you're like, oh, that's going to be them. They're going to cause some tomfoolery, and Magneto's there, and he's often been heavily associated with the Hellfire Club. So the Hellfire Club is going to do some shit at the end of this episode, and it's going to be really bad. And then the episode fully pulls the rug out from under you, and gives about 10 minutes of the most harrowing television that I have watched in some time. The writers for this episode could not have known what world events would have happened in the last year. In their mind, I'm sure it went to the Russia-Ukraine conflict as a kind of contemporary touch point, but it is so much more haunting and frankly effective with everything that has been going on lately with Palestine. And it is a truly horrifying sequence where you get great moments with Magneto and Rogue and Gambit, and the closing shot on Rogue in this episode. As I said at the beginning of this episode, I will need several business days to recover from. But also, this episode just throws in, hey, Cable, and here's an answer on Cable, and you're like, oh my god, this episode just fully wrecked me on every possible way that it could.
And see, I haven't watched it yet, but I've seen, like I said to you off mic, that I saw a few reviews of it from my favorite TikTok people, and I know going in it's going to be an emotional upheaval because a lot of sad things happen. I will probably be right there with you on those 5 to 7 business days. It just, I'm not, like, I'm vaguely aware of what's going to happen because, like I said, I've seen TikTok, but I'm not ready for the actual, like, watching of it and feeling it in real time. I'm not looking forward to it.
It's a lot. I'm still not entirely sure how I feel about the explanation on the backstory between Rogue and Magneto. I'm sure it's not as not as like bad as my brain wants to imagine that it is. Like, there's probably much more innocent explanations for like their backstory than like I'm trying to attribute to it, but it still does feel a little icky. Because I could say this, the episode explains the backstory of them as Rogue, after really discovering her powers and kind of manifesting, is taken to Magneto and kind of learns under him, and romantic relationship emerges between the two. I think the episode does enough to demonstrate that Rogue is like not a minor and well into like age of consent, but also
it's still
it's not grooming, but it feels groomy, and
it's still not completely clean cut and easily understood.
Yeah, it's going for a kind of Beauty and the Beast kind of vibe, but I'm not sure it was as truly effective at that as it really wanted to be. But by this point, it had already it had done enough Hot Magneto to really. It had done a lot of Hot Magneto shit this season. And enough of like really strong chemistry between the two characters to kind of sell it.
Yeah.
I would say to jail for this episode if the episode itself wasn't so great.
Yeah.
Like, just the entire episode go to jail, but it's one of the best episodes that I've seen in a very long time.
And like the last time we recorded, we spoke about this. Like, I hadn't watched any of 97 yet, and you were like, "Oh, it's really good. Like, the animation's been updated." And I'm like, I crammed 4 episodes this week, and you're not wrong. Like, it's really good. Like, there's compelling stories. It's reminding me of my childhood, sitting, watching X-Men on Saturday morning cartoons. It's got it all, but yet also is different and updated. So I'm sure episode 5 will wreck me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very curious where the season will go from here. Whether or not, because we had some cable time travel tomfoolery in the episode as well. So I'm curious if we will get more time travel shenanigans that try to retcon this in some way or soften the blow of this. A part of me hopes not, and the other part is like, please make this not hurt. Please make this better by science or magic.
Please let it be temporary.
Yeah. But to go to a slightly lighter note, not really, but slightly.
Slightly. That's being very generous with the word slightly.
Yeah. We have Star Wars: The Bad Batch, Season 3, Episode 12, entitled Juggernaut, which is really getting us prepared for like the last few episodes of the season. I do love the description for this episode of the Bad Batch prepares for a jailbreak in an episode where Omega got captured again by the Empire. Like, that's some good red herring. That's a good red herring.
I love Omega, and I didn't think I was going to like this character that much, but I do. And to see her get captured again, I'm like, oh no. I was like, we were so close.
Yes. Yeah, it's a good return to that plotline, especially after we got the Emery standalone episode. Get more of a headspace into like where she is at, and a little bit of like what is necessarily driving her, and how that will affect what happens with Omega going forward.
I don't know why I thought this was the last episode. Like, going into it, like when I started the episode, I was like, oh, this is the last episode. And like, obviously it's not, but like, for some reason in my brain I was like, this is the last episode, and I don't know why I was thinking that.
I also thought that there were only 13 episodes, so I thought this was gonna be like the penultimate. I thought like 11 everything falls to shit, 12 they figure it out, and 13 it's a big jailbreak. And
But instead 12 is everything falls to shit.
Yeah.
I mean, 11 everything fell to shit too, but like, it even went further.
Yeah.
This show continues to be so much more than I had anticipated when I first went into it, with season 1. I went in not knowing like what to expect. I hadn't watched much with regards to Star Wars animation. Like, the only one I had watched at that point was the Clone Wars. I mean, I've since gone back and watched, the other ones, but I didn't really know what to expect. But like, I love this show. It's so good. And it continues to tell humanizing stories about these clones. And and these soldiers that are kind of like against their will, and I like it. I just I'm gonna be sad to see it go.
Let's move on to Abbott Elementary, Season 3, Episode 9, entitled Alex. I think Abbott Elementary has kind of backed itself into a corner where the thing that makes the most sense for a character does not make sense for the show. The thing that makes the most sense for Janine, and the way that she has always been written, is to go to the district.
Yep.
It is what she wants. It is how she gets to do the things that she has always wanted to do but been unable to do. But the show doesn't work if she does that.
And like I think that's why I didn't really like this episode. I it was like it was okay. It was mid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I just was like I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I just was like, it was there. But like I think the thing I didn't really like was that she's like, I'm gonna be going to the district and I da 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 and it seems very like towards the end, of course, it does seem a little less like solid of a decision, but it still seems like she's set on it. And it's just like the show, like, even if they were to put her in, not, I'm not saying that this is what they're going to end up doing, but like, even if they were to put her into a part time guest appearance on the show, like, the dynamic at Abbott Elementary doesn't work without Janine there.
Yeah.
It's like you said, like the show wouldn't be the same. They need her to kind of have balance between the different groups of characters. Plus we need Janine and Gregory. Let's be real here.
Yeah, so like we're at the point now where it's like, okay, she's obviously not going to go to the district. Like she's not going to stay in the district. How do you make? Like, I don't know how the show makes that work.
Like, how is she going to explain changing her mind? Because she was so adamant and strong and solid about it when she announced it to everyone at the school. Well, everyone but Gregory. And it's like, how are they going to backtrack that?
Right. Well, and backtrack it in like a way that makes sense for like, again, the things that like Janine has always wanted to do is doable at the district. Like the things that she wants to do is like systemic, you know?
Yep.
Not things that can be like fixed as a teacher.
And I know she's throughout this season, throughout this season, she's she has mentioned from time to time how much she misses teaching, how much she misses her students and things like that. But like, I don't know if it's been a strong enough through line in the season for it to be like her to sit there and think long enough and be like, well, actually, no, I miss teaching. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think they have to come up with some kind of creative way that doesn't undo some of the other writing that they've done to develop this character. It'll be interesting to see if they accomplish that correctly. I will say one thing I did enjoy with this episode, like I said, it was a very episode, but I did enjoy the moment at the beginning of the episode where Barbara and Melissa are talking to the kids. They're like, well, back in our day, and they're like talking about different hand jives that they would do when they were younger. And then the kids start doing one for the current times. And it's just like, oh my God, this is the most ridiculous thing that I've ever seen. But it's funny because then they were like, never mind, go back to your phones. Like, they're like, this got too real.
I also really like Keegan Michael Key as the superintendent.
Yeah.
Also carrying over from the last episode. Keegan Michael Key is just one of those people who's like, how's he not already been on the show?
I was actually thinking that when he showed up for the first time as the, superintendent. I was like, wait, how is it that we've gone this long without him on this show?
Like he's the perfect fit.
Because fun fact, I saw a few years back, I saw an off-Broadway production of Hamlet at the Public Theater in New York City, where Oscar Isaac played Hamlet, and Keegan-Michael Key played either Rosencrantz or Guildenstern, and like which are the comic relief part of Hamlet, because Hamlet's a very intense play, in case people don't know. I mean, Shakespeare, who knows? Anyways, and I've ever since that performance, that was one of the first times I'd really seen him as a performer. Like, I'd heard his name over the years, but I'd never really seen him do anything. And then I saw him in that, and I was just like, oh my God, he's so freaking talented. Mm-hmm. He's so good. And then all of a sudden it was I was seeing him on all the sitcoms, and I'm like, yes, this is exactly where you should be.
Yes.
So for him to show up on Abbott, I'm like, what took you so long, Abbott? What took you so long?
But also, this episode made me with him on this episode made me really miss playing house on USA. It was a very fun kind of romantic comedy.
Okay.
But also Key and Peele. Key and Peele's great.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So let's jump to our last show of the week. Ghosts, Season 3, Episode 7, The Poltergeist.
Polterguest.
Poltergeist. Guess? Oh, is it Guest?
Guest. Yeah, Polterguest.
Poltergeist.
It's a play on the word poltergeist.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it does make sense. Can I just say before we really, really dive in, first of all, us talking about Gunther Dinosaur earlier, just the minute I was talking about Gunther Dinosaur, I was just like, Isaac and dinosaurs. In this, I was like, ghosts did it. There was I didn't think there could be something that could make me love Isaac even more. And then they introduced the concept of dinosaurs and him not realizing they were real. It's just funny to me, and then that playing into his lap dance.
Yes. Well, I do love this is more than just like a one-off joke, but also this is kind of like how I think I said a few weeks ago that I don't believe that Jay has never just randomly sat down and watched Jaws. I think
yes.
I don't believe that Jay just doesn't sit down and watch Jurassic Park every time it comes on TV. There's no way. I fundamentally refuse to believe that. So the idea that this has not come up before when Jay just watches Jurassic Park,
here's the thing.
Oh, come on.
I to be fair, I do think that it could have come up before, but Isaac's also not always around with the rest of the gang. He's sometimes off with Nigel. And so it's understandable that maybe he wasn't paying attention and they were watching it on TV. So the other ghosts saw, the dinosaurs on TV, whatever. And Isaac then heard them talking about it later and he's like, "Oh, well, it was on TV, therefore it's not real." It's totally plausible
right.
that he, because Isaac's kind of, I love him, but he's kind of an idiot. He's a product of his time period. He doesn't know a whole lot. He's not very educated, but at the same time, I think your thing can still also be true.
Fair.
Because he's off with Nigel all the time. Let's just do plausible deniability that he just doesn't realize Jay has always watched Jurassic Park.
Because Jay would always watch Jurassic Park.
He would. He's the type of guy that would totally sit down and he'll watch the first one on TV and then be like, "You know what? I want to watch the rest of them," and then pull up streaming. You know it. You know it. More specific to this episode, I do love that what's her name gets the love interest and then he becomes too clingy and she's like, "Nah, get him away from me." She's like, "Nope."
Yeah. Lamar Morris, who people will be familiar with from New Girl as Winston. Yeah, he's so much fun.
Yeah.
I find this episode really interesting in the way that Ghosts as a show, its rules have always been really laid out. I think I've talked about this earlier when
Yep.
when me and Jinaal last year talked about Not Dead Yet. Where Ghost rules are really concrete. You know exactly where you stand with them. You know why she can see the ghost. You know how. You know under what conditions and what the limitations are. Right. And here you see a different set of rules for a poltergeist and that seem.
But I like that they establish how it's different.
Right. But they're also a lot flimsier as rules.
Yeah.
They're just we can just do it.
Like at first you know, when he's first introduced, you're like, okay, so a poltergeist is attached to a specific person, therefore they can travel all over the place, you know, blah blah blah, whatever. And that makes sense. That's solid, it's set in place, it seems like a legitimate understanding of how a poltergeist is different from a ghost but also similar. And then he goes and changes up the whole schematic by being like, well, I can attach myself to whatever person I want. And we're like, really? Not so sure about that, but okay. Like,
it seems a little too wibbly wobbly of a rule, you know?
Especially for for a show like this that is very hard and fast with their rules. They're like, we've established this from day one. It's not going to change. You know, even when Pete's wife, you know, she had to have died on the property for her to stay there, right? If she hadn't died on the property, we would not have had a new ghost in the house.
Yes.
It has to be on the property. And so
it has to be on the property and you can't leave the property.
Right. And so this new rule with this guy, it's just like, so are we deciding that we don't care anymore?
Or the rules are we can just do whatever we want.
And also, it made me start to think about Flower, who's still in that well, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do about Flower? Like, is this going to play into Flower's story? You know what I mean? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if it was just a one-off thing because they wanted to try something new, to kind of liven things up a bit, or if they're going to start making it a thing where like these ghosts can figure out a way around the rules.
Yes. Well, like the show still hasn't even brought up the fact that like if Flower didn't get sucked off, then who did? And if no one did, then what does that mean? we still have not addressed that as a concept, as a part of our world.
We have not. And the season is winding down, and so it's like, when are we going to address this big gaping plot hole here? It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, the next episode is called Holes Are Bad.
Oh.
So that does indicate to me that we might soon be talking about this.
we might run into Flower in the next episode.
Yes.
Also, I want them to spend a little time and like explore Pete's new power, because he was able to, you know, recently able to punch his wife.
Oh, sure.
Maybe it's just it's one of those things that like these ghosts don't change much, and so like for him to suddenly be able to be like, I wonder if it was just an emotional thing, because like him and his wife do have a very cantankerous relationship. But I don't know, it's one of those things that I'm like, I want you to explore this a little more. Thanks.
Yes,
bye.
Yes. So that's it for this week. Next week, I think we're going to try to talk about Fallout. I'm at least going to try to watch some Fallout. We typically don't have.
I've been hearing good things.
We typically don't have a lot of success when we try to do like full binges in a week.
No, we never do.
We never do.
It
always goes
potentially say. We could potentially say, okay, let's try to watch the first 2 episodes or something.
Yeah.
I've heard good things.
So have I.
So I'm intrigued. I don't know. Again, I'm not a gamer. I don't know anything about games. But typically game-related TV shows I've kind of been okay with. So
yeah.
I feel like I might enjoy it.
Yeah. And I'm a big Ella Purnell fan. So I'm very excited.
Nice.
So until next week, Mads, where can we find you online?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at DorothyNYC89. And if you really want to get down and dirty in the fandom stuff, I'm over on Tumblr as well, Mads World 15.
Nice. And you can follow me on Twitter at @theDraconic, and you can follow me on Blue Sky at Draconic. Also, Letterboxd and Serial, same place from logging movies and TV shows I see throughout the week. You can follow the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Blue Sky, and I guess TikTok at Not Another TV Podcast. And you can email us at notanothertvpodcast at gmail.com with any thoughts, comments, questions, listener submissions, goat picks that you have. You can find previous episodes of the podcast on Apple and YouTube. Be sure to leave a review and subscribe on whatever podcasting device you're using. You can also find our full list of episodes on our Libsyn feed at libsyn.com/not another TV podcast. Until next week, be sure to remember, don't go in the ocean. None of your business. Goodbye.